Brahmanath. Om. Om. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Swastha.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the second unit of After 20 Years by O. Henry. Before we begin, or before we discuss and learn the second unit, let's just accumulate or gather what did we discuss and learn in Unit 1. In Unit 1, the policeman was on the beat. He was doing his patrolling duty as a routine habit, and it was 10 o'clock at night. It was drizzling, chilly winds were blowing, and the policeman was doing his duty very smartly. The locality held early hours. People did go back home at night early, and the street was de-peopled. The policeman did his duty very interestingly and in a playful manner with the small little stick that he held. And the man was a well-built person. So he just looked like a fine picture of the guardian of the law, a protector of law. And finally he sees that a cigar store, all-night hotel, and 2 tailoring shops were still open. They were trying to wind up the day's work and close down or shut down. And so he was doing it in a very watchful, in a very vigilant manner. He was performing his duty, moving forward, turning back, looking back again, and then he happened to become thoughtful, thinking about what his boss told him in the morning. His boss did talk about a notorious criminal who had a pale face, square jaws, dark and deep eyes, with a scar or a white scar or a mark on the right eyebrows. And finally thinking about that, he really felt very bad because it was a shame for the police organization that the notorious criminal was at freedom and he wasn't caught. His crime was that he printed illegal notes. And finally, the policeman who was doing his patrolling duty, he took out a pocketbook, $5 note, and a reconstructed photograph. He addressed himself as a boy, saying that you have been honest and dutiful for 18 years, and so luck is going to pay or repay you. Finally thinking so, he looks at his wristwatch and says that it's 10:15, 15 minutes more. Finally, he happens to see at a distance the outline sketch or figure of a man, of a stranger, of a person standing near the doorway of a darkened hardware store. He immediately quickens his steps and he moves fast and approaches and reaches the stranger. And then he wants to ask, the policeman wanted to ask him, who are you? Why are you standing here? But he stopped himself and allowed the stranger to speak. The stranger could also understand that the way he was standing at that odd hour looked suspicious or doubtful. So he did speak about his story, saying that he was waiting for his friend with whom he had an appointment 20 years back, and there was a restaurant called Brady's Restaurant here, which was no more there. Saying that after the conversation, he just takes out his cigar and he struck the match to lit the cigar, and in the flame or the light of the match, the policeman was able to see or take a glimpse of the face of the stranger. Now, let's move ahead and discuss and learn what's there in Unit 2. 20 years ago tonight, said the man, I dined here at Brady's with Jimmy Wells, my best chum, and the finest chap in the world. So what happened, he says, further he adds to what he's saying to the policeman because he has to convince him. Just saying the story that I'm waiting for a friend, we had an appointment 20 years back, and saying there was a restaurant here wouldn't work out. So he had to be more practical, more open to make the policeman really understand or really feel that yes, the person or the stranger is right or is true in what he is saying. So he didn't add to it that 20 years tonight, same night, 20 years back, the man, stranger, who was standing near the doorway of the hardware store, did narrate to him that I dine means to eat dinner, that we both, who? Jimmy Wells. He says, Jimmy Wells, my best chum. Chum means friend. I have written it here. Chum means friend. My best friend, Jimmy Wells, the finest chap. Chap means boy. One of the best boy in this world. He addressed him. He felt so for his friend. So he said, 20 years ago, same night, together we were there and we had dinner together in this Brady's restaurant, and the name of my friend is Jimmy Wells, and to me he is one of the best friends in this world and the best boy, finest chap in the world. We were both born and brought up here in New York, just like two brothers. Born and brought up means born and raised together. Both of them were born in New York, according to the stranger, according to the man, that he says, myself or me and Jimmy Wells, we were born in New York and we were raised together. Brought up means raised together. And we shared a bond. Although we were best friends, we shared the bond just like two brothers. I was 18 and Jimmy was 20. I was means the stranger says the age that he was 18 years old 20 years back, and Jimmy Wells was 20 years old 20 years back. Okay? And the boy, the next morning I was to start for the west to make my fortune. Jimmy was a hummingbird. So he says, and the next day we decided to move on our own path, own roads, to make our fortune, to make our career, to make our fates, okay, to taste the fortune. And what happened? Jimmy, he went. He means the stranger. The stranger or the man who's narrating the story says that I went to the west, but Jimmy Wells was a hummingbird. Hummingbird, a person who does not like to stay away from home. Or in simple terms, you can say homesick. A person who's homesick, a person who doesn't like to stay away from home is called a hummingbird. So Jimmy Wells, according to the stranger, the man who's narrating, he's saying that I went to the west the next morning to just taste or take my chance of building my career and to face my fortune. I didn't go to the west. But Jimmy Wells, as he was a boy who liked always to stay in his own house, own place, just like a hummingbird, stayed back in New York. You couldn't have dragged Jimmy out of New York. Dragged out can mean to but Jimmy Wells stayed back in New York as he was a homing bird, and it was very difficult to pull him out from that place as he felt that his place, New York, his home, was the best place in the earth for him. Well, we agreed that night that we would meet here again, exactly 20 years from that day and time. So, we did discuss, we made an agreement, we made an appointment, we had agreed to each other. That night when we dined together in the Brady's restaurant, we both had discussed that exactly 20 years after, both of us would be meeting here at the same time, same place as we are dining tonight. Okay? No matter what our conditions might be or from what distance we might have to come. And they had also planned that whatever life would have given them after 20 years, wherever they would be, whatever they would have in their life, whatever circumstances or situation would be there in their life, they would stand up to this appointment, what they agreed upon, that both of us would meet each other 20 years after, same place, same time, and whatever life had given them, after that they would meet undoubtfully, and that is what they had agreed on. The appointment was fixed accordingly. And distance we might have to come. We felt that in 20 years each of us would have had his career made and got what life had to give, and they were sure, they were pretty sure that 20 years, not a small duration, 20 years is not a small duration. And in these 20 years, both of them had decided, the stranger and Jimmy Wells, both the friends had decided that in these 20 years, we would get whatever we wanted from life. We would make our fortune, we would settle our career, and whatever we wanted for ourselves, because 20 years is a long time to achieve one's goal, aim, build one's career, or to settle down. It sounds pretty interesting. Here, pretty interesting means quite enjoyable. Who's saying this? The policeman is saying it to the stranger when the stranger has narrated the complete true fact that how 20 years back they had dined in or had dinner together in Brady's restaurant, and to him and to Jimmy, they were the best friends, and for the stranger, Jimmy Wells was one of the finest chap or the boy of the world, and how he was 18 years old and Jimmy was 20, both were born and raised together, and that after that night they decided together, they agreed that both of us would go different ways, and after 20 years they would meet at the same place, same day, same night. Okay, and so he says that when the stranger did tell the policeman that I went to the west to taste my fortune, my fate, and Jimmy Wells was a homing bird, so he stayed back in New York, and it was difficult to pull Jimmy out from New York or from his house because he felt that was heaven for him. And then he says that, and when he does narrate that after 20 years he had decided that 20 years is a long time to build one's career and fortune, whatever circumstance, whatever situation would be there, we would meet, and they had agreed upon this appointment. And listening to that, the policeman now did answer that, whoa, it's quite enjoyable, quite interesting, pretty interesting. What you're saying sounds quite interesting or quite enjoyable, said the policeman. Rather a long time between meets. It seems to me, the policeman is saying, that means you people, both the friends haven't met each other for a long period of time. You haven't met each other. Haven't you heard from your friends since you left? So he's asking it found out about your friend since you both departed 20 years back? Haven't you been in touch with each other? The policeman is trying to inquire and to ask the stranger, the man who narrated the story. Well, yes, for a time we corresponded. Corresponded here can refer to wrote letters to each other, writing letters to each other. So he said, yes, both of us did correspond each other for a time. I mean, not for a longer period of time. But after a year or two, we lost track of each other. Of course, for a year or for 2 years, we were in touch with each other through letters. We did write to each other, and finally, after that, we lost the track. Lost the track means we went in our own ways. We did not have any news about each other. We were not in touch. We did not keep in touch with each other. So we had no news and views about each other. Though Chicago was what you call my headquarters, who's saying this? The stranger is saying. The man standing near the doorway of the hardware store is saying this to the policeman. Though Chicago was what you call my headquarters, the headquarters of this man working in Chicago, I kept moving around a lot. He said, though my headquarters is in Chicago, but I didn't stick to that place all the time. I had to do a lot of touring. I had to move, around a lot. But I know Jimmy will meet me here if he's alive. And the stranger is pretty sure that if Jimmy is alive, he is there, he will surely turn up. He will surely come to meet me, to see me as per the appointment fixed 20 years back. For he always was the truest, staunchest old chap in the world. Truest means you can see speaking the truth facts or speaking the true facts. And staunchest means very sincere. So according to the stranger, he tells the policeman that if Jimmy Wells is alive, as 20 years have passed by, and after 1 or 2 years, we did not write letters to each other, we didn't keep in touch with each other, we don't know about each other. So, and if I'm sure, I'm 100% sure that if my friend Jimmy Wells is alive, and he would surely come because he always spoke the truth, and he's one of the very sincere boy, a friend of mine, and he will surely turn up, or he will surely come to meet me as per the appointment that we agreed and fixed 20 years back, that we would meet at the same place after 20 years and say night. He will never forget. He is so confident. The stranger is so confident that his friend Jimmy Wells will surely come to meet him. He will arrive undoubtedly, without any question, and he will never forget. I came 1,000 miles to stand at this door tonight. He says that, the stranger says, that I have taken the pain remembering the appointment, the agreement that we fixed 20 years back, keeping my words, my promise. I did turn up, I did come, and 1,000 miles I traveled from Chicago here, and I have come as per the promise made, and I have been honest with my appointment. I'm standing here where I'm supposed to, as we had fixed the place and the time. And he says that I came 1,000 miles to stand at this door tonight, and it's worth if my old partner turns up. Turn up is a phrasal word here. Turns up means to arrive. Turns up means to arrive, or you can say be found. So he says that as I have come keeping my promise of traveling 1,000 miles, standing at the same place 20 years back. As per the appointment, I have been honest and I'm standing here and I'm sure that he would also come, and it's worth it. Worth it here can mean it's good or fine. Okay? Worth it here means it's good or fine, or it's noble. You can take it that way also. That if my old partner turns up or arrives, it would be really good. It would be really noble and fine if my old partner, who's the old partner? Jimmy Wells, right? So if Jimmy Wells turns up tonight, he also keeps his promise, and he also comes as I'm standing here keeping my promise, and I'm sure I expect my friend Jimmy Wells to do that too. So the chapter, the unit is half discussed. The remaining part or the concluding part of unit 2 will be discussed in my next video. Before we pause or stop, let's discuss one question. What was the appointment made between two friends 20 years ago? 20 years ago, both the friends, the stranger or the man and his friend Jimmy Wells, whom he considered to be the best friend and the best boy in the world, met each other the same night and they dined together. They ate dinner in the Brady's restaurant, and both were born in New York and raised or brought up together. And at that time, the stranger or the man was 18 years, whereas Jimmy Wells was 20 years. And there they departed, keeping an appointment or a promise to each other that they would meet each other 20 years after, same time, same place. And so the stranger did move to the west to make his fortune, and Jimmy Wells, being a hummingbird, stayed back in New York to make his own fortune. So you can write this within 70 words. Next, concluding part of the unit we will discuss in the next video.